Great. Good evening. My name is Richard Cream, and I'm Chair of the Permanent Public Building Committee. Welcome to the December 9th, 2024 meeting of the PBBC. Under Governor Baker's emergency order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, issued March 12th of 2020 and in effect until the termination of the emergency, meetings of public bodies may be conducted virtually, provided that adequate access is provided to the public. On March 29th, 2023, the remote public meeting provision was extended through March 31st of 2025. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded via Zoom and will be uploaded to the town's YouTube channel for publication, later viewing, and administrative purposes. The following members are scheduled to participate remotely: Stuart Chandler, Lynn Denninger, Bob Dermody, George Kent, Roy Schiffletti, Erwin Silverstein, and I as chair. All votes will be conducted by roll call vote, as this is an online meeting and recorded as such in the minutes. Which brings us to the first item on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of November 4th of 2024. The chair is not aware of any comments having been received regarding the minutes that were distributed earlier in the last week or so from Catherine Copley. So I'll ask one more time if there are any comments or questions with respect to the minutes of November 4th, 2024. Okay, hearing none, we'll deem the minutes to have been approved, and they will be filed accordingly. The next item for business is the Emery Grover project, status update and change orders. And for that, I'll recognize Ken.
Thank you, Rich. Let me find my stuff here. Let's see.
While you're doing that quickly, Catherine, I think George is in the attendee side. You may want to let him in.
Thank you. There he is. Yes. Promote him to panelist.
Yes. DPW's there. What was he? Oh, yes. I don't know. Hank, can you for some reason I've opened the EG agenda, but it's not showing up as shareable.
Let me try. Of course, it's upside down. Let me rotate it.
Yeah, I had to do that with mine. Yeah, it wouldn't feed the other way when I scanned it.
Okay. Share my screen. There.
Thank you. Okay. All right. We got probably about a dozen and a half items left on the punch list, most of which we hope to complete between tomorrow and the end of the week. If the contractor doing the doors and hardware shows up like he's supposed to tomorrow, we can continue on. Items of note that still need to be completed are the planters in the front, the clock graphic, and the entry post for the security and intercom equipment at the north portico. The ACL is limited now. We've got those security bollards at the 7,500. We're splitting the lift cost with M. O'Connor for the graphic. And so our share is 2,500. And that cable box is somewhere during the process. M. O'Connor's cable box disappeared as we moved into the building. So we will reimburse them for the money they have to pay Comcast for that. Other than that, any questions?
What is the sharing of the lift? For
It's supposed
graphics?
to install the graphic in the old clock space.
Oh. Why are we sharing that? That wasn't part of it. It wasn't clear
No,
or what?
it wasn't part of it because it took so long to approve the graphic and get it ordered that we can't run they had the lift on site, but they had to send the lift back. They weren't going to keep it just sitting there for months waiting for the graphic to come in. So we agreed to split the cost with O'Connor. Or they actually agreed to split the cost with us. Because it was our delay that caused it.
And Ken, what's the ETA for that at this point?
Somewhere between now and the end of the month. I keep hearing the week of Christmas, but I'll believe it when I see it.
Mhm. Any other questions or comments regarding Emery Grover for Ken?
Are you gonna identify where we are at this point?
Yeah, it's in
project?
Hank, if you can scroll to the bottom, it's in the budget that was in the package, but Hank, scroll to the last page. I think there's a little over 300,000 left in the contingency at this point. Yeah, 304,000.
Being as stingy as I usually am, I do always ask the question at the end of the project, are there some things that we should do that are actually, if we had plenty of money in the budget, and it seems like we have some left, are there things we should do that we should initiate ourselves at this point, as opposed to just rescinding the funding?
We may be able to fund some of the additional AV and IT costs. The IT folks are working through their costs right now, so we may have some there and can certainly there really hasn't been anything else from the end users. And correct me if I'm wrong. There are a few tables that they wanted for the upstairs that we may be purchasing through Red Thread and little odds and ends like that, but nothing else has popped up at this point as an item. But I see Ian and Barry both have their hands up, so.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go Ann first.
Yes, my understanding, Ken, please correct me if I'm wrong, that the anticipated cost of the AV in the upstairs on the third floor is about 250,000. So none of that has been paid from the project budget yet.
Correct, but we have reserved for it. So
Okay, and that is,
it has been quote unquote encumbered.
so
we
is that,
get the money. It's
that
in
coming-
addition to the 304.
it's an addition, thank you.
Barry?
Yeah, Ken, we talked about this. I said something to Hank as well. There's several doors, code compliant doors in the stairwells that are propped open with door chocks. So, and I talked about putting in some consideration for magnetic hold opens. It's a lot of our new buildings are lacking these, and a lot of doors that aren't supposed to be propped open are being propped open. So before IT or we get new tables, I think we really need to consider putting in magnetic hold opens on a lot of these doors that are being propped open that are not supposed to be.
And I agree with you that they're not supposed to be, and they were never designed to be propped open. These aren't like hallway doors like in the schools where you get halfway down the hallway and they're propped open. These doors should be closed 100% of the time. And
well, they're allowed to be open if they're on a magnetic release on the fire. The fire
correct, but that was never the design intent. The design.
A lot of the money that they're talking about using is also maybe wasn't part of the design intent. Anyway, let's just give it some thought, okay? Because I just don't want to forget about that.
I've looked at it, and I think it might be something that we can't afford because of how we'd have to pull the wiring. You know, we'd have to rip open walls to do the wiring. But I'll take a look at it again, Barry.
Yeah. The other thing, Ken, complaints I've heard is that south stairway is pretty cold. And we may need to look at adding another heater there.
Yes, it is. It does get quite chilly in there, yes. And all this time we were worried about how hot it was gonna get. Because of
I
the sun
wasn't.
exposure.
Well, it may get hot in the summertime.
Oh, yeah, it probably will, but
More than like, if it's exterior caused, then it'll get hot in the summertime.
the heater should have been located in the first floor landing, not the second floor landing, because that's where it's the coldest.
Yeah.
Is on the
Well-
first floor landing.
Obviously, before we do anything, we need to figure out what's best. But things like that, to me, make sense if it's not terribly expensive and we have some budget for it. But so I'll let you guys worry about that, but I'd suggest, I mean, I like giving money back, but on the other hand, I don't want to give it back if we're gonna spend it later and ask Barry to go get it under another budget item.
Sure.
You probably agree with that, Barry.
I do, 100%.
Okay, so why don't you get together with Ken and figure something out and let us know if there's something that should be added. I think, that's my opinion anyway.
Yep.
If
And
the
you have
chair
a question?
agrees.
Ann?
Thank you. If it's all right with the group, I'd also like to speak with the superintendent about things that he may wish for the building if there are some additional funds left over. We can add that to-
That's a good idea. He's usually pretty frugal. Frugal is the word I use.
And
Sure.
and the other thing is we will be getting a check from Eversource, but those monies go back into the town general fund. The first check is going to be over $90,000 for the energy efficiency that we've built into the mechanical system within the building.
We usually try to find a way to let people know about that, but it gets
We-
hidden most of the time.
Well, George, we will, and we're actually approaching the director of finance to see whether reimbursements like this could be put into sustainability revolving fund of some sort.
Would make sense.
Okay,
That's
Okay.
all I had. Thanks.
thank you. Ken, anything else?
No, we can hop over to the voting items.
Okay, terrific. All right. So we'll start with the change orders first.
Sure.
Okay, great. So the chair will make a motion that the committee approve the change order from M. O'Connor Contracting, number 20, in the amount of $12,307.67, is broken down on, as you see on the screen before you.
A quick note on that, Richard.
Yes.
We went outside the Miss Metals contractor for the gates in the at the trash and the rails in the front.
Mhm.
And the quote we received from the Miss Metals subcontractor was a little over $71,000. We got the work done, as you can see, for $24,568.72.
Wonderful. Congratulations. Great job. Any other questions or comments on, actually, you could take a second first. Is there a second on the motion?
Second,
Thank you. Is there a discussion on the motion as seconded? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
aye.
and Michael,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The next, then we will proceed then to the invoices. First, invoice number 24 from M. O'Connor Contracting for requisition number 24 through November 2024 services out of the general contractor's budget, $55,042.55. $55,042.55. Go ahead.
Don't believe what you see in the screen. The
Yeah, okay.
55,000 is the right number.
Okay, good. Thank you. Well, maybe just for clarity, can you just maybe just anything we should note from what you're seeing on the screen there that just to edify things?
No, it's just getting down. The 34,000 is what's left. It's mostly contingency funds and the few odds and ends that haven't come through yet. But I anticipate we'll be paying that off with the December requisition.
Very good. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. We then come to the next invoice, which is from BH+A Architects for November 2024 services. The chair will move that the committee approve the invoice for payment from BH+A in the amount of $18,490 even out of the architect's budget. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. The next invoice we have is from RG Vanderweil for October 2024 commissioning services. The chair will move that the committee approve the invoice for payment from RG Vanderweil in the amount of $3,500 even. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Thank you. Next, we come to a series of 3 invoices from Red Thread. And I will read the invoices and we'll vote the aggregate of the 3 invoices. The chair will move that the committee approve the invoices for payment from Red Thread as follows. For a stool, $763.13 out of the FF&E budget. Second invoice for a lateral file, table, and desktop in the amount of $7,804.20 out of the FF&E budget. And finally, an invoice for a workstation in the amount of $5,970.80 out of the FF&E budget for a grand total of $14,538.13 out of the FF&E budget. Again, the chair will so move. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Questions or discussion on any of the invoices comprising this motion?
Quick question on the workstation. What comes
Sure.
with that? Is it just a desk and
It
a
was,
cubicle?
it was actually the one of the sample workstations they had set up at Hillside. It's it's like an L-shaped desk with a partition and inbuilt electrical outlets.
Well, we also purchased but left at Hillside the second setup. So it's both setups, I believe.
Both setups, correct.
So it's really 2 setups. One's going to be used somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Because that sounded like a very elaborate and expensive.
Well, the regular ones aren't cheap, George. I mean, if you
Yeah,
look at the
I know.
individual pricing, it's not cheap.
I hear you.
Any other discussion on the 3 invoices from Red Thread? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. I believe that that concludes our discussion of the Emery Grover project. Any final thoughts, questions, comments before we move on? Okay,
I just said, I had a couple of comments regarding the day, Saturday, the open house.
go for it, George.
I thought, number one, I thought the chair did an excellent job. Thank you very much for representing us.
Thank you,
Um,
George.
And second, I thought Dan did his usual fantastic job of kind of leading the whole operation. I thought the whole day was wonderful and a good representation of what we do in this town.
Absolutely.
You're here.
Well stated. Thank you, George. All right, with that, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is the RTU replacement for Elliott and Broadmeadow. And for that, I'll recognize Ken.
All right, Hank, could you help me out with this one too? I can get when we get to the DPW, I can call that one up, but this one's not showing up either for the
Yeah.
RTU.
Oh, hold on.
All right. Over at Elliott, the work is done. They continue to work, melding the BMS. Barry had some work done to the BMS system, so we're working on integrating that and finalizing the training for the stuff over at Elliott. At Broadmeadow, one of the items up for approval tonight is PSS2 for for GGD for roof redesign. And once we get that approved, then I'll be on the phone with them tomorrow asking when I can have that. It's key to getting the new roof curbs ordered in a timely manner. And then Cam, the contractor for Broadmeadow, is setting up schedule for school vacations and holidays. We have a meeting coming up after the first of the year with the folks over at the staff over there to kind of run through what the expectations are and lessons learned from Elliott and things we need to do once we get started there. So hopefully that will all go smoothly. The only thing we're holding in reserve right now is that 205,850 represents it's not really the roof redesign per se. It is what the roof work came in at over budget basically for the amount of work, but we're redesigning the roof, so that number is kind of meaningless now at this point. So I've got to now attach the actual GGD 56,000 into the ACL along with some kind of ballpark estimate for the extra roof work that will be required to rip the entire sections from the areas that we're discussing for the roof, for the RTUs. There's 5 of them, 3 distinct areas, and then get the roof insulation will have to be increased. Thickness will have to be increased, and we need to get some duct work done to accommodate that. So that will all be part of the redesign. So that's what's happening as far as the Broadmeadow portion of the project is concerned.
What's that going to do to our budget?
Don't think it's good. I mean, we've got a huge, if you scroll down, Hank, to the budget, you'll see we got plenty of money. After and we've awarded the contract for Broadmeadow. So you can see we've got 1.4 million in contingency. So I think we've got enough cushion. We've had very little. There was only a couple of small change orders for Elliott. So anticipating we run into similar for Broadmeadow, we should be in pretty good shape.
Okay.
So any questions on status at Elliott or Broadmeadow on the RTUs? Let's see anything, Richard. We can go into the voting items.
Very good. Okay, we'll proceed with the change order first. Ken? Okay.
Yes, please.
Great.
The PSS, yes.
Yeah, PSS, right, okay. The chair will move that the committee approve PSS number 2 from GGD Consulting Engineers. That's for PSS number 2, roof replacement multi-sections, as described previously by Ken, in the amount of $56,350.00 out of the designer budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Second,
Thank you. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
aye,
Ann,
Aye.
Barry.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. And the next item for business is actually under the RTU replacement, are a series of invoices. The first is from Enterprise Equipment Company. And the chair will move that the committee approve the requisition for payment from Enterprise Equipment Company. And that's requisition number 13 through November 2024 services in the amount of $27,436 even. And that's out of the general contractor's budget. Is there a second on that motion?
second,
Thank you, George. Discussion on the motion. Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
aye,
Ann,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. And next, I think, last, I believe under this topic. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Next is and final invoice for RTU replacement is from vendor NV5 for November Elliott commissioning in the amount of $6,615.76 out of the miscellaneous budget, and the chair will so move. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Thank
You
you.
forgot George.
Oh, my apologies, George.
that's
Sorry.
all right. I was gonna say yeah anyway.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, very good. So any other discussion items for before the committee on the RT replacement before we move on to the next agenda item? Okay, I think we're good. So we'll proceed then accordingly to the next item, which is the DPW complex phase 1. And for that, again, I'll recognize Ken.
This one I got, Hank.
Okay.
Oh, maybe not. Now the EG one is showing up and not the,
No, we'll let Tyler share his.
yeah, well, I was just gonna pop the agenda up and then turn it over to Tyler. And there's a couple of invoices that we'll do at the end after Tyler's presentation. Weston Sampson will be showing us the process so far with the recommended plan, recommended program. We also have, which was in your package, the reconciled budget, which we'll talk about after Tyler's presentation. And then, of course, I'm sure we'll have questions and all as we go through the process. So, Tyler, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you guys again. So as Ken mentioned, I'll be giving you guys an update on where we've been on the project since the last time we spoke. It's a very fun topic and can get pretty detailed, so bear with me, I'll do my best. But let me share my screen first. All right, let me know when this comes up for you guys.
Got it.
You're good, Tyler. All right. So I wanted to give you guys first an overview of the project since the last time you saw it. So I'll show you some of the updated plans that were shared with you. But once we get done looking at the plans, I also wanted to talk to you about some decisions for the design team to help us progress into the next phase of design. Some of those decisions that we're going to be looking at are related to the mechanical systems for the proposed buildings. The first one would be whether or not we proceed with ground source heat pumps or air source heat pumps for the proposed addition. Deciding whether or not we want to convert the existing garage to electric or not. And if we go electric, do we go ground source heat pump or air source? Third is rooftop solar or with or without a battery electric storage system. And then the fourth one would be the drive-through bay that we discussed at our last meeting, cutting through the large ledge removal area. So I'll get back to these decisions once we look at some of the site plan updates. The last time we had met, we were in the conceptual phase and we had voted to proceed with concept 6. So the plan that we're looking at here is the utility plan for the schematic design level concept 6. So we have the four full depth garage bays in blue. The purple one is the last bay being converted to a long-term maintenance bay. We have flagged the wetlands and we're doing our best to stay outside the buffer zone. But due to some elevation requirements for draining the pond, we have to extend into the wetlands. So there's going to be some permitting for the Conservation Commission. It's anticipated that we'll need to do that. Another thing we're showing is the exterior wash area, which is planned to be covered by an exterior canopy. We have generator and transformer in the back bottom right corner. And we're looking at doing gravity, doing a new sewer extension with gravity from the 2 buildings to a pump station near Central Ave with a future stub out to collect if ever there's sewer extended to the RTS site. And then that is a force main that goes up Central Ave to the existing sewer on Central Ave. There's also a little bit of 100-foot wetland buffer that gets crossed into for the sewer line extension. One of the decisions that we'll be talking about is whether or not to include the drive-through bay. The existing topo of the site, the existing garage is around 170 and the highest point of this ledge area is around 200. So there'd be a pretty significant cut here for the driveway, and it's at the highest would be around just under 30 feet, I believe. But when we started looking at what the site would look like without the drive-through, the reduction in ledge wasn't as great as we had anticipated, mainly because of needing space for the transformer and generator, and also allowing like mechanical entry out back for the maintenance of the bioretention area. And then I briefly wanted to jump inside the building just to show you guys an update. Towards the bottom of the screen, you'll see the maintenance bays. These are full 80-foot bays, with the bottom one being for welding. The full drive-through bay for heavy duty vehicles. We have a medium duty bay with tire maintenance in the back, and then a light duty bay for preventative maintenance. And then we have a converted bay with a partition wall down the existing garage for the long-term maintenance bay. For support spaces, we have fluid storage room, a parts manager office, fleet super's office, a multi-purpose room, and some locker rooms. Above these support spaces is a proposed mezzanine that'll be used for additional part storage, as well as additional spaces for mechanical rooms and battery storage rooms. We moved the plumbing and fire protection room into the bottom corner, as it's easier to route the water and fire suppression services to. And we're also proposing to have the electric room above this area, because this is the part of the building that's closest to the proposed location of the transformers and generators. So I guess I'll open it up to you guys if you guys have any brief questions on the updated plans.
Yeah, Richard, can I
Yes,
jump
please,
in?
go ahead.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks. Two questions. One is if you go back, yeah, you're on the right one. I know we're in sort of wetlands now with the DPW over on over in the other area. But you're so close to wetlands, what do we have to do or have we considered for spills and things of that nature? So if we're washing down the trucks here, you got spills, if you built in that retention pond, what are we doing for that? Or is it too early for that discussion?
So all the all the vehicle maintenance that would lead to a potential spill would occur inside. We also, all the fluids and for the fleet maintenance garage is stored inside a contained fluid storage room. The fluid storage room itself will have a sump in it. So if any of the tanks rupture or for some reason spill, it would all be contained within that room. As far as driving around, the stormwater design will be designed to remove hydrocarbons through deep sump hooded catch basins or oil water separators. And we are going to be cutting into ledge for this pond. And because we can't infiltrate, it's going to be designed as a bioretention area, which is around 2 feet of soil underlain by stone and perforated pipes. So if there is spill that gets caught in the catch basins, the bioretention system will help, prevent a lot of that from draining through and going into the wetlands. And then the one last thing, the wash pad area will be connected to the sewer. So the vehicle wash water will be collected and discharged to the sewer for treatment.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
A related question, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
How far do we have to go up Central Avenue in order to connect into the sewer line?
I want to say
Up
off
to
the
Mark
top-
Tree Road?
Yep, the road's right here. It's hard to tell, but
Is it Mark Tree on the right?
It is.
That
yes.
is correct. Yes.
Okay.
yep, I think it's around 700 feet or 1,300 feet. Those are the two numbers in my head. I'm pretty sure it's 1,300.
Pretty good sized force main.
Mhm.
Okay.
Tyler, I wonder if you could maybe go back to the slide where you depicted the removal of the drive-through and maybe just comment on operationally, what are the implications of removal of that, of the drive-through?
Yep. So without the drive-through bay, all these bays would be a pull-in back out, including the heavy-duty garage. So some of the disadvantages is that you'd be pulling in and backing out large vehicles all day. I know one thing that the DPW had noted is that one of the largest or the highest reasons for accidents is due to backing up. And especially the larger the vehicle, the higher the likelihood of someone missing or backing into something. So the drive-through bay will help allow them to pull larger vehicles in and then just when they're done being maintained, drive out through the front. Similarly with vehicles that are on trailers, instead of having to back the trailer into the bay, they could just pull in, unlock the trailer, and then continue through. It also allows some flexibility in the way that they use the bays as well.
It would seem that that's a real preference of DPW, I would assume.
I think, Shane, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, Tyler said it perfectly, but our preference is definitely to maintain and keep that drive-through bay for those reasons that he mentioned. I would say about 95% of the accidents that we have are directly related to backing. So any opportunity we have to be able to pull vehicles straight and not have to back a vehicle up is an opportunity to save taxpayer dollars when we have to pay for claims against the insurance at a later date.
Yeah. I would say we ought to work as hard as we can to keep that.
Yeah, agree. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, if that sounds good, everyone, I'll just move on to the fun conversation about the mechanical, the decisions for the next phases of the project.
Yes.
Okay. we'll just look at these one at a time. Let me know if you have any questions. So as part of the schematic design phase, we did a life cycle cost analysis for ground source heat pump and air source heat pump for the proposed addition. The ground source heat pump system is much more efficient, uses less electricity to heat, and has the opportunity to provide cooling. So and then the air source heat pump system is is about $1 million less expensive upfront, but it uses more electricity over the lifetime of the system. But our analysis determined that the air source heat pump system would be around $800,000 cheaper over a 25-year period. And that is also including needing to replace the air source heat pump system over a 15-year period. Another thing out there for your knowledge is that the ground source heat pump systems do require a lot less maintenance and are generally more reliable than air source heat pumps. As part of this process, and for you guys to consider, is that there are significant incentives available for the project through a Mass Save and the Inflation Reduction Act. And it's our recommendation if that we can secure $800,000 of incentives for a ground source heat pump system, that is the decision that is recommended, as if you can offset that initial upfront cost with incentives, then it makes all the sense in the world to go with the more efficient and cheaper system to run the building.
Can you go over those numbers again in terms of, you're saying ground source heat pump is cheaper over the long haul?
Ground source heat pumps are $800,000 more expensive.
More expensive.
Yep.
Over the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get a rebate of that initially.
Yep. I'll bring up the incentives to review you guys. So there's a lot of incentives available for this project, and this is a rather confusing slide, but I'll try to describe it for you to make.
Can you enlarge the image, please?
Yes, just 1 second.
I mean, I like ground source heat pumps, but if it's that much more expensive, I still might like them because they're low in maintenance for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how much do we spend on maintenance at PSAB? Hank, do you know?
Barry, I think, is still on.
Yeah. No, we don't spend much at all, aside from time from my trade staff going over there to make some adjustments, but we spend very little money maintaining that system.
And I think that's a good indicator of what it would be like in a system like this.
Yeah, we'll be proposing a very similar ground source heat pump system in this facility.
Tyler, if I may, just before you walk us through the chart, I think Stuart has a question. Stuart?
Okay.
Yeah, we've been playing with numbers for a second here. I just want to be clear, or I want to understand, when you say that it's $800,000 cheaper, you're taking the upfront cost, the maintenance cost, and all the operational costs for the year and netting that out.
Yeah, exactly. It's the upfront cost, including the cost for the loan over the loan period. And it's the energy costs anticipated for that system over the lifetime. And we're bringing it all back to a present worth value, and we're comparing those apples to apples.
Okay, so the 800K is that net present value difference.
Yeah, yep, net present value. So the idea is if we can find that much money in incentives, then the ground source heat pump system is a no-brainer.
Right. Where is the cost in the ground source? Is that the upfront is so big relative to the other pieces of the air source?
Yep, it's the installation of the wells mainly.
Okay.
That increase the upfront capital cost.
And you got to dig the wells too.
Yeah, the installation of the wells is a big source.
And Bob has his hand up as well.
Oh,
Yes, thank you, Henry and Mr. Chair. Real quick, Tyler, I may have missed this, but given all the ledge on the site, is there a good location for these ground wells?
Yep, so we're trying to all the ledge is kind of at the bottom of the page and kind of slopes down and away as you go up. So initially we were trying to locate the wells in the back of the building where we can route the horizontal piping not through ledge to try to reduce costs.
Well, that would be good. Okay,
Yeah.
just maybe an obvious question, but I'm not as familiar with the site as you, so thank you.
Yeah, no, we looked at a bunch of different options, and this seemed to be the best way to get ground source heat pump on the site.
Okay, thanks.
Hey,
Yeah,
Tyler,
no
now
problem.
you can walk us through the slide. That'd be great.
Okay, so I'll do my best to try to enlarge this, but so we have all these different incentives coming from several sources. We have mass saves through Eversource. We have some green community programs, and some of the larger ones is through the Inflation Reduction Act. I've color coded this to make it a little bit easier, where the white rows are applicable to all the options. They apply in all the scenarios. The green ones are available if we go with ground source heat pumps. The blue ones are for air source heat pumps. And then this orange one is for if the town decides to electrify the existing building. And there's much more incentives for the ground source heat pump systems. If we add up all the green ones and the white ones, we're looking at roughly $1 million worth of incentives for a ground source heat pump system. And I want to just go into the largest source of this is through the Inflation Reduction Act. This is up to 30% of qualified investment. And in order to hit that 30%, you have to have meet prevailing wage rate requirements. And you also have to meet a certified apprenticeship program. A certain percentage of the fee goes to apprenticeship. And in talking with the town, both of those are something that we'd like to pursue. And in terms of the qualified investment, that is the cost going towards the clean energy equipment, such as solar panels, air source heat pumps, or ground source heat pumps, or the battery storage system. So for this analysis, I just use the ground source heat pump system from our cost analysis. So if we go with solar, then this number would be increased as well. But the most important part is that the potential incentives exceeds the increase in air source heat pumps. Therefore, when we get to, I think one of the recommended options is to go with the ground source heat pump for the existing building. And I think now may be a good time to get into those potential scenarios for us to oops.
I think Lynn has a question and then we'll continue. Tyler, Lynn.
Shoot.
I'm just wondering if anyone, from a timing perspective, do we think we can actually access the Inflation Reduction Act funding with the incoming?
That is a good question.
I mean, it's not a day one issue, but it's gonna happen. So I don't want the team to get too far down the road thinking they're getting that much incentive if it falls short.
I think somehow I heard that money was staying because it was already approved and couldn't be backed out.
Well,
I'm not sure that's
I don't know if that's.
I'm not
that's
sure
true
that's
either.
real.
I'm not either, but
Yeah.
I think that's something I heard,
Well,
but it's certainly worth checking.
I think so. There's a lot of, I guess, unknowns as far as this project, but the recommendation kind of sort of takes it into account so that if we end up not getting incentives, the project doesn't die. So I think this is a good segue to try for me to explain another complicated slide here, but if you just bear with me, I'm sure I can make sense of it for you folks. So there's a lot of different ways that we could organize this project moving forward. We could go with ground source heat pumps for the proposed building. We could do no solar, and we could keep the existing building gas, and just move forward with that. And this total project cost does fall within the project budget. I looked at a couple other scenarios where instead of going ground source heat pump for the, sorry, it was so the scenarios go ground source heat pump, no solar, and then the existing garage stays gas. And then the next row down is that we go ground source heat pump, but the existing garage goes air source heat pump. And then this one is ground source heat pump, air source heat pump for the existing garage, including solar. And this is the other scenario where if the incentives are available, it does also fall within the project budget. And then the other scenarios are a similar approach where we go no solar, but we are doing ground source heat pump for both the buildings. And then it's ground source heat pump for both the buildings with solar. And then the last one is with solar without converting the existing garage. And to make it a little bit easier to look at, I did convert these to a graph. So each one of these is the scenario organized from cheapest to most expensive. I have two bars here. One is the dark one, which is the total project cost, not including incentives. The light blue ones are including incentives. So the two ones that we are looking at that we're recommending is scenario 1A, which is where we do ground source heat pump for the proposed building, but the existing building stays gas and there's no solar. So that would be the base bid. But in case the incentives do stay and we get good bid pricing, we would like to propose that we include 2 add alternates that will get us to this scenario 2B, where we design the proposed building with ground source heat pumps, but we do a bid alternate to include rooftop solar. And then we do a second bid alternate to include air source heat pumps for the existing garage. So we broke it out this way to give the project as much opportunity for success. Because these two options, 1A, 1 and 2, can be designed and removed without affecting the rest of the design. They're easy things to add or subtract to the project. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions or clarifications?
It does, I think,
Hank?
my opinion.
Yeah, you got a question, Hank, or a comment?
Yes, the comment is that is cash flow. Typically, the rebates don't come until after the job is completed. So in this scenario that Tyler is recommending, by having the 2 alternates, if the base bid is a very favorable bid, which includes the ground source heat pump, we would have the option of putting the rooftop solar on as part of that base. If the base bid doesn't come in as favorably, what I'd like to recommend is that we, in the warrant article, indicate that any rebates be channeled back into the project so that a separate bid could be had to install the rooftop solar. And it might extend the life of the overall project. We would have to rebid it in that instance, but we would still be able to get the solar and potentially the battery. And the air source heat pump transition in the existing garage might be affordable if we get all of the Inflation Reduction Act monies back. But we could be talking a year and a half after completion of the project before we would be in receipt of those monies. So it's complicated, but I think the recommendation that Tyler's put forward, by having bid alternates, it allows us in real time, once we get the bids in hand, to make those choices.
Thank you, Hank.
Okay, so is there anything else that Hank, that is needed from the committee this evening, or is just an informational
Well,
So,
Presentation at this point.
I think we'd like a nod to proceed with this scenario as recommended.
so the nod would be for either ground source heat pumps with gas or 2B.
I think it would be 1A, which would
Yeah.
be the ground source heat pumps as part of the base bid.
Right.
And then we'd have two alternates, add alternates. One would be for rooftop solar, which I think we would want to have as the first alternate. They have to,
Which scenario is that?
it's sort of a
Rooftop.
hybrid. It kind of gets us toward 2B. So it's the recommendations on the bottom of the page that I think I'd like to proceed with. So scenario 1A, ground source heat pump is part of the base bid documents. And then as part of the bid documents, we have two alternates. The first add alternate would be adding rooftop solar. The second add alternate would be converting the existing garage to have air source heat pumps.
Stuart,
And-
you have a question, and then we'll try to have to wrap up with a sense of
Yeah,
the.
just, I support the 1A and the 2B, to be. Hank, the stuff that we did in the Jack Cogswell area for solar already, so is that leverageable? Because obviously when you put this new building up, you're gonna put solar on it, and that's what the cost is, but is it leverageable to what we've started over on the other side?
If we have sufficient funding coming back, the town could choose to put as part of the bid for solar, all of the roofs with solar.
And that's what I wonder, if you looked at that, if there is time and you can do it, I would think we'd want to, is to look at that aspect, because maybe that would offset some of the bigger picture on that right-hand new building. If you can leverage an existing building, we've already set up some pieces for it. So that's my question. Thanks.
The three areas that you see, the largest area is on the new addition. Unfortunately, all of the roofs face slightly away from due south, which is at the bottom of the page. But it's a very low sloped roof. But I think that has been taken into account. And as Weston and Sampson moves forward, they will be looking at the total energy demand for the building compared to that which can be supplied by the rooftop solar. I think that and comparing it both with the existing building and the new building. So we don't have the balancing point yet. Tyler, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn.
No, that's correct. We do need to do a load analysis to help do a further analysis on how much energy is actually going to be used by the building versus how much we can produce. In talking with our solar engineers, his gut is thinking that all the energy produced could be consumed on site. But that's to be determined once we proceed to the next phases of design. Another thing he added is that the bigger the solar array, the shorter the return on investment there is. Just because you can produce more energy and save more on electricity.
Yeah, and if we couple it with batteries, I think the incentives, both for the solar array and for the batteries, would help pay.
Correct. Another thing is batteries are beneficial when you start talking about electric vehicle charging. They help with amperage draw, especially if you're charging during high peak times, or it just helps with those charging systems better.
Okay, we're
Hey,
a little bit behind schedule. Go ahead. Very quickly, George, and I want to get to the.
Okay, this should be a quick one. So when would we know approximately whether or not that funding might be available versus the schedule of the project? Or is that all politics? It may be. It may be.
Those items that are Inflation Reduction Act related would be related to changes from Washington. Those that are sourced from state funding and or Eversource funding are more secure. And likewise with the Green Communities funding. So local funding is more secure, federal funding is less secure.
Okay, got it. It's all politics
Okay.
at
So
this point.
to wrap things up on this in this segment, is it the sense of the committee that we proceed in the direction as recommended by Hank of scenario 1A with the add-ons as presented? I would say yes, but
Yeah.
ask others. Do you? Okay, is that the consensus of the PBC? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. If there are no other questions for our guests, I'd like to move to the invoices because we are a bit behind schedule and we've got other folks waiting. Thank you, Weston Sampson, Michael, and Tyler. Thank you very much for your presentation this evening, and look forward to hearing more about the project as it moves along, particularly that question of the the drive-through. So,
Yes.
those are your marching orders, anyway. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
You
Have a
bet.
good night.
Have a good holiday. Thank you.
Thanks, Tyler.
Bye.
Okay, so we have two invoices to pass upon. The chair will move that the committee approve the invoice from Weston and Sampson for October 2024 services in the amount of $181,364.29 coming out of the designer budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second,
Thank you, George. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Shane,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Thank you. And there are two other invoices for DPW project. The first is Needham Police Detail on 10/23/24 for November 2024 cost estimates. No, I'm sorry, for detail of 2020 of October 23, 2024 in the amount of $424 in out of the miscellaneous budget. So the chair will move that the committee approve the invoice from Needham Police for that detail in the amount of $424. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, well, actually, we'll go to roll call vote, sorry. Roll call vote, and that's Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
Shane,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. And the final invoice is from Lyro Hill for services. That's November 2024 cost estimate services in the amount of $14,625 out of the miscellaneous budget. The chair will so move. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, George. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Shane,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Thank you. And I think that is it for the DPW discussion this evening. Any last comments or questions before we move on? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed on to the library phase one project. And I'm not sure if it's is that Ken or Hank?
Yeah, I'll take this one. And let's see. Brett, will you, so we have both Brett Benson and Nicole Remy here from UTIL. Earhart is also here, and
Rob, I believe, is on the participant list as the mobile phone number, if we can elevate him to panelist.
Oh, okay. I didn't recognize that. I don't think, well, I can't elevate him to a panelist, but he's got permission to talk.
okay.
I think.
We'll find out when we go through the votes.
Come on.
Okay, so with that, I think I'll let Nicole or Brett share your screen and go through the presentation that you've prepared.
Great. Good evening, Commissioners. Nicole's going to take it from here, and I'll chime in at the very end.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Nice to see you all again. Yeah, my name's Nicole Ramey. I'm the project manager from UTIL for the new teen space within the Needham Free Public Library. And we've just wrapped up our design development phase, and we're ready to move into construction documents next week. So we wanted to share our progress with you. I'm going to give you an overview of where we are with the design of the project, and then we will review the budget, and I'll pass it to Brett to talk about the schedule. So some of this may be a recap for some. Our space is located in the southwest corner of the upper level of the library. There's going to be 2 entrances to the new space. One is here at the top of the stair, and one is here oriented towards the stacks wing. Within the new teen space, there are going to be 4 zones. You enter into this stacks and lounge area. Here underneath the skylight is the craft area, and there's a group work area underneath the clear story window along the south facade. And then the quiet study zone is located here, surrounded by curtain wall on 3 sides and enclosed by the existing glass storefront wall. We're developing 2 custom millwork elements. One is here located within the lounge. It includes shelving around the perimeter, banquette seating within the lounge zone. There's a console with a television here for gaming and movies. There's also some storage on each side as well as within the banquette seating itself. And then the librarian's desk is located here in the corner. In the quiet study area, we have a millwork piece as well. There's laptop seating here along the north wall, and then there's study corrals here along the west wall. And within both of these millwork elements, we're also developing some screening elements. In the quiet study area, there's a screen that will help to protect both from direct sunlight causing occupants to overheat, as well as to protect from glare within the space. And then within the lounge area, we're looking at a screen element here, which will help create a sense of separation between the lounge area and the group work area. Throughout the presentation, we'll look at a few 3D views as well as some of the materials. I'll just note that at this stage, we are selecting materials for their quality, but not necessarily for their color. So the images don't necessarily reflect, we'll move into color studies in the next phase. The darker hatch here indicates a carpet, and the lighter hatch indicates a resilient flooring material. In the lounge zone, we're thinking of this as a zone with richer, warmer materials, wood finishes, and in the quiet study area as well. And in some of these zones where there's a lot of natural light, we're looking at lighter colors. And particularly in the craft area, we're looking at resilient finishes that are easy to clean. So 2 of the materials we're looking at for the resilient finishes, we're considering marmoleum, which is a great option, and it's commonly used in schools as well as other public buildings. It can be recycled at the end of its useful life. It does require a little bit more maintenance. It should be resealed every 1 or 2 years. We're also looking at a vulcanized rubber product. This particular option has some cork integrated into it, which may help tie it in with some of the existing finishes within the building. This material can be maintained by dry buffing. And so it requires a little bit less maintenance. So the choice will be sort of a balance of cost and maintenance considerations. For the carpet, we're looking at 100% recycled nylon. This will be very easy to maintain. And we're looking at patterns that have a little bit of variability to allow for concealment of any stains that do occur. And we'll also consider that when we're making color selections. This is a view of the ceiling within the space. We're replacing the ceiling over the lounge area. And in this zone, we're looking at a linear wood ceiling. This will have absorptive material in the linear slats. And it'll also be a panelized system to allow us to access some of the fan coil units, which are located above this ceiling. And in the new quiet study area, we're looking at either a stretched fabric option or acoustic plaster. Both of these have a high level of acoustic absorption. That will help out within the space. This is a view of the craft room. We're looking at several materials on the walls here. We're looking at a pinup board on these. These will be cabinet doors that open to a large storage unit. And there'll be a pinup board on these doors. On this wall, we're looking at introducing some color or maybe a piece of artwork, but we're also hoping to have some acoustic performance out of this surface. So we're considering either a stretched fabric with a print or a felt material with some color and texture included. Along this wall, we're looking at a resilient wainscot that will help to protect the wall up to above the height of the table. And the cabinet will have just plastic laminate and a quartz countertop. These are some images of the potential felt panels along that wall as an opportunity to introduce some color. And then this is a resilient wainscot and the 4-bow pinup board. For the fabric for the banquettes, we're looking at a vinyl for the seats and a bleach washable fabric for the back, which will be both easy to clean and maintain. This view is of the lounge zone. This piece in the front is low to allow views into the space from the entry. And the element in the back is a little higher to provide some sense of separation between the quiet study area and the group work area. We're looking at a beechwood veneer for the lounge element. And we're looking at powder coated MDF for the bookcases on the perimeter. For this screening element, we're still continuing to study, but we're looking at a somewhat reflective material that may be able to bounce some light into the space, and also a perforated material that will allow visibility and light to pass through, but will provide some sense of separation between the group area and the lounge. The screen may be also an opportunity to introduce some color into this space. For the wall panels within the lounge, we're also looking to achieve some acoustic performance within that space. So we're looking at some fabric wrapped panels or potentially some perforated wood panels with fabric behind. This is a view of the quiet study area underneath the clear story looking back towards, the group work area looking back towards the quiet study area in the back. You can see that there's a screen element in the quiet study area as well. And the goal of this screen will be to provide visibility out and to balance that with also providing some protection to the occupants from glare and direct sunlight. So from this angle, you can see that from certain angles, you get a clear view out, and from others, it will block your view to some degree, but also protect from direct sunlight. So we've been doing some studies to kind of find the right balance between those two considerations. We'll also be keeping the existing roller shades that are within this space. And the goal of this screen will be to kind of minimize the use of those roller shades so that the majority of the time this can be open and maintain the views out. These are just some reference images of wood screens and other spaces and some library spaces. and some materials that we're considering for the work surfaces within the quiet study area. These are a couple of the glare studies that we've been conducting. This particular image shows the space as it is now with shades included. The red indicates spaces that are receiving disturbing glare more than 5% of the time. And this study is a comparative study with the new screen element that we've modeled. It reduces the amount of glare to 4.2% of the spaces receiving disturbing glare, and it decreases the amount of time that the blinds need to be closed. And this slide is just showing some of the furniture options we're looking at. We've been getting into more detail with these furniture selections as well. In the craft area, we're looking at cafe tables and some stackable chairs that are very lightweight and easy to move around. Within the lounge area, we're looking at some flexible furniture options that also have the opportunity to for occupants to move around and create new configurations. Here in the group work area, we're looking at some furniture elements for these booths. And then in the quiet study, we're trying to create a variety of seating options that allow for individual focus in different manners of study, some more focused with a desktop and others a little bit more relaxed with a small laptop table. And then this is a view from the exterior of the space. Here we're standing where the circulation desk will be located in phase 4, and just showing that this corner we would like to keep open and maintain views into the space from this angle. But on this side of the space, the wall will be higher. There may be an opportunity in future phases to introduce some study rooms in this location. We're showing some shelving here at this stage. And our goal will be to kind of balance creating views in from the right angles and then also creating a full height acoustic separation around the perimeter. So that's the end of the design updates. I can pause here to see if there's any questions, and then we can move on to some budget and schedule slides as well.
Nicole, I had one question that kind of piqued my interest, and that is the question of the stretched fabric as a potential option for the quiet area ceiling. When I hear fabric, I always think of two maintenance issues. One is sagging, and the other is kind of discoloration over time. I wonder if you could comment on the longevity of that type of solution for that area.
Maybe I'll pass that to you, Brad, if that's all right.
Sure. Yeah, we've used stretched fabric a number of times very successfully. It's stretched quite taut and set up so that it doesn't sag over time. You know, the manufacturers have been using this type of product for many, many years now. It will rely on good workmanship during installation time, but we'll make sure we have our eyes on it with the contractor when it's being installed. And then in terms of discoloration, that'll go back to the specific type of fabric that's used. But there have been tremendous advances in that over the many years that these types of products have been used. So I don't expect discoloration of this material in this location.
Thank you. Questions? Oh, Erwin.
Thank you. I have a question on the 100% recycled nylon, sort of a multiple part question. What's been your experience about the durability of the recycled nylon compared to virgin nylon? And how do you, I imagine in your specifications, you'd be able to ensure that you would be getting the best type of recycled nylon, because I imagine they're all different types of recycled nylons. So how do you handle the variability, and what's been your experience about its performance?
So I don't think I have great insight into the different types of recycled nylon. I'm sure that you're right about that in terms of there are different grades. The manufacturers that will be specifying are manufacturers we've worked with before and have had experience being high quality commercial grade carpet. Generally with carpet, people get tired of the aesthetics of it before they get tired with the durability of it. And I would expect, given the level of specification that we'll be providing here, that that will be the same, that it'll get many good years of use. We'll choose a pattern and a color that will be very forgiving for stains and things that are dropped on it and things of that nature. But we could probably do some more research into the types of nylon and get a little bit of a better understanding on that.
Thank you.
You're not going to get anything better than Interface if you end up with that.
Right.
So that's a good thing. But you have to do the 3 bidders. So I would just double check that you get 2 others as well positioned as Interface, if that's what you're shooting for.
Yeah, we'll all high quality carpet manufacturers. We won't accept anything less for the town.
Perhaps I could ask our user reps who are on the call if they what their reaction is to the presentation, what the trustees' thoughts are.
Yeah, so this is pretty exciting to see the next version of this and to really start seeing some materials in place or some kind of conjecture of materials in place. I am noticing one thing, which is at least in these renderings, these 3D renderings, is the loss of light in that section where we've dropped down with a new false ceiling and the clerestory windows kind of being on either sides of it, but it being dark in the middle. And I'm really curious about how we think about that's going to affect the feel of the space, because one of our hopes was to maintain some of that openness and that the way that the light actually pulls through the entire floor of the library. So I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about how that is going to affect that that overall feel.
Yeah, and can I ask, are you referring to just the different materiality? Because the ceiling will be at the same height as that it is currently. So we will just be replacing the ceiling tile that is currently at the same height in this zone.
Okay, so it shouldn't affect. Oh, so the way I'm seeing this is I feel like this actually is affecting the way that the light comes through the clerestory windows and how it spreads through that space.
I think that, can I add to that?
Yeah.
I think the other piece of the puzzle is that I'm also struggling with a little bit, which is the addition of the slats and I'm going to call it a grill, but you called it like a screen or something like that. I think that's perhaps what Erhard is speaking to, and I think it's impactful to me as well. I understand why you're on that path because of the wood and everything that goes with it and the potential additional interest, but I'm wondering if you explored a similar option, just using a very simple Mecco that you can still see through and you still get enough light through it and you can still see out. And I mean, besides the design quality of it, I get that. But I'm thinking if it was something simpler that allowed more light in, but still cut the glare, it would respond to what Erhard was speaking to, because I agree with that. I'm struggling with having that so blocked.
This element here, the screen element here. Yeah, we can definitely continue to study different options for that and different orientations. We are looking for this element to be something that does allow light through and also potentially can bounce light onto the ceiling at certain times of year. So we are looking for this to achieve a balance of sort of a subtle partition, but not blocking the light from the space to a high degree.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just add that probably the quality of the rendering increases the contrast that your eye will better be able to compensate for. Maybe it's just kind of the settings of how we're representing this view that makes it look dark in the middle compared to how bright it is out at the edge. But our goal is to have a more even quality of light throughout the space and not to make it darker in this particular area.
Okay.
If there are no other questions or comments, I'd like to proceed to the next item in the presentation, Nicole.
Sure. Maybe I'll pass it to Hank to talk about the budget.
Yeah, let's see. I sent to several documents to the committee. One was the overall budget, And share this. Can you enlarge this a little bit? As we've been progressing through schematic design and design development, compared to the initial feasibility, you'll see that the projected costs have escalated slightly on this top line here. But we had anticipated, because the initial feasibility study was done about a year ago, we did add about $100,000 in terms of anticipated escalation costs to arrive at this group of numbers here. We are continuing to carry a 15% contingency comprised of owner's contingency of 10% and construction contingency of 5%. The FF&E has gone up fairly substantially from our original estimates. However, when you go down to the following note, there is potential of gaining a little over $120,000 if the trustees confirm to assist with the purchase of FF&E. And we've had preliminary discussions at our last meeting, and we're looking forward to a meeting tomorrow night with the trustees to review all of these materials. So overall, we're looking at a total budget, including moving costs, FF&E, and the construction costs of around $2.96 million. And with the addition of that $120,000 and the soft costs that were previously appropriated, we're in that a balanced budget. We are also have had discussions about how to frame the bidding process and the construction sequence. And Brett, at our last meeting, pointed out the potential compromise we will have competing against summer slammers. Our bid documents, the bid documents in this project would go out in mid-spring, in March. We'd expect to get bids in hand by April prior to town meeting, but we would suggest in the schedule that construction not start until the very end of the summer or early September. And Rob has indicated that summer is actually the busiest time in the library. So it would be preferable to have that work start in the early fall, late summer, early fall, and end early in the new year in 2026. So we're discussing those, and hopefully by adjusting the schedule accordingly, that would allow for the project to come in within budget during the bidding process. As with any smaller project, we just don't know how busy people are and how hungry the contractors are. We will have to go through both filed sub-bidding and GC bidding on this one. But that is our strategy, and we'll be having this discussion with the trustees tomorrow evening. I don't know that we need to get into all the details, but I did share with you the reconciled cost estimate. Glad to put that on the screen if need be, but I think this summary is sufficient.
Yeah, I would agree, Hank, that we are running a little bit behind schedule. So, yeah, I think I think that the summary is good. Folks can look at the materials you provided on their own time, and we can certainly circle back at a later date. Any other questions or comments on the presentation or the project as a whole?
I do want to make one comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Which is I just wanted to remind folks that the ways that we had been thinking about that that potential funding from other budget sources that the library trustees could look toward, or from some of the other folks like Friends and Foundation. We were hoping that those weren't going to be factored into the estimate. We were hoping that we would have an estimate that would be part of the bidding process to cover all of the costs. And then if there were overruns in the actual construction or purchase of furnishings, then we could use some of that money in order to make sure that we got what we wanted at that stage. And so I'm a little nervous proposing an estimate that has some of those things that we are not prepared to say that we have money for at this stage. And I wanted to be frank about that.
Yes, and I understand that. We're hoping for a decent bidding climate, but also with $250,000 in contingency, it's very possible that we wouldn't need to dip into that for the FF&E. Plus the construction is one thing, and then the ordering of the furniture is a separate piece. The lion's share of that FF&E is actually in the shelving.
Oh.
And in a library, that's pretty essential. And UTL and their team are looking at the trade-offs between purchasing new and recycling existing. But if we're looking to change colors, then there's custom painting that has to occur, and also custom cutting of existing systems and then trying to match them. So there's a higher probability that we'd be able to relocate some of those existing ones to other places within the library, like that wall that Nicole showed, and purchase new for the I have to double check the numbers, but Nicole, the total cost on
You're looking for the cost of the shelving?
shelving, yeah.
Yeah, we got a couple of quotes back. It was about, for just the metal shelving, not including surrounds, about 65,000 new for the new shelving. And then it was going to be about 55,000 to reuse the shelving, not factoring in the painting that would need to occur. So the savings, if there are any, would be modest. We got another quote back that had a higher differential between the new and the used. I'd have to look up those numbers, but it was maybe a $20,000 savings from the second manufacturer. So we could continue to explore that, and maybe there would be some benefit, but it would be a bit more complex in terms of storing the materials, parsing what can be reused, and sending it out to be painted and then returned.
And we would, we've already, the funding for this would be borrowing according to the current capital improvement plan.
Right.
We can certainly go back to town manager and request additional funding. But that would be an argument, Earhart, that you'd have to help.
And I want us to get what we should be putting in there, right? But I just want to to keep in mind this idea that, we want to have a rainy day fund for those rainy days and not assume that all the days are going to be fine with that extra money already expected to come.
Lynn, and then we're gonna have to really try to expedite things because we have another major topic after.
I thought you were on a different path there, Hank, for a minute, because I think there's a lot of custom casework on every single inch of that space. And so I'm just wondering, when you said shelving and everything else, I thought you were going down that path. Because I actually think that's where you should look if you wanted to have money for a rainy day. Unless you really love that. And I think it's beautiful. I'm just thinking that's a big piece of that investment.
Yep.
There's a lot of custom seating inside and outside, and the back wall and the front wall and at the window wall. I think
Yep.
you're just gonna have to decide where you wanna spend that if you wanna save some money. Not to be a downer, Nicole and Brad.
Yeah, no, we've definitely
It's
thought about it.
incredibly beautiful, but like that to me is where the money is being spent.
Yeah, we've definitely thought of that as well. And there's definitely some opportunities. Like we've been thinking about some of the banquet seating. We've done other projects where we've actually specified that as furniture instead of custom. And there's definitely savings there if we want that. There is some, we talked about putting storage underneath and we might need to give that up. And we talked about trying to get power into it. It might be a little more challenging to do that, although we have some options that can integrate power. So there may be a few trade-offs in functionality, but there's definitely the possibility of transitioning some of those elements to furniture elements and finding savings there if we need to.
Yes, because you're correct. The wooden plastics line item is one of the larger.
And Probably, Lynn, just to your point, we do want to make sure we're close to being on budget right now, and we have one more cost estimate where everything will be that much more detailed, and the cost estimate will be that much closer to the bid. And we want to have a couple areas that if we can very easily take away without totally reconceiving the design.
Agreed.
Just
Understood.
a quick question, if I could.
Yes, go ahead, George.
This space is for teens. And I'm wondering, where do they get an opportunity to just say what they feel looking at the space partway through the project? We get to look at it. The trustees get to look at it. Do you have anything built into the process where you could have a few teens look at it? I know that's dangerous, but it's awfully quiet.
This would be a good question for Rob. Rob, do you have an ability to unmute and weigh in on this?
I don't know how to unmute him.
You can probably drop it in the chat.
Oh, there. There we go.
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Thanks. This is Rob McLean. I apologize for being here via my cell phone. So besides the input during the space study, Erin Bassett, our teen librarian, has met with teens this fall and shared some of the images that you've seen to get their input. So we've had that input besides the all of the surveys and meetings that occurred with members of the community during the space study. So we'll continue as we go down. I think earlier Nicole had mentioned that we haven't decided on colors yet, and so we also will have an opportunity for furniture to arrive at the library for us to try out, not just with staff, but we'll be showing some teen patrons some of those options and getting their input.
And Rob, I'll just add to that Erin has been in all of our client presentations all along the way too. So we're getting her feedback at each step.
I know it's dangerous to bring too many people into the decision process, but I thought it might be a good idea to find out where have they been involved and have a better understanding of that. Thanks.
Hank, is there anything that
Thanks.
you need
Yeah.
from the committee at this point before we move on to invoices and the next topic?
No, we will take these issues up with the design team and look for VE opportunities and also durability of materials.
Very good. Okay. Well, I'd like to thank Nicole and Brett for joining us tonight, and very happy holiday to you both. And you can stick around if you like, or if not, that's okay too. We're going to just do a couple of quick invoices, settle those invoices on this project, and then we will move on to the Power School renovation. So, but thank you both for coming.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the chair has we have two invoices regarding the library phase one project. The first is the chair will move that the committee approve the invoice for Utila Incorporated for October 2024 services in the amount of $40,245 even, and that's under the architect's budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you both. And is there discussion on the motion? As seconded. Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Erwin?
Aye.
Erhard?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. One other invoice regarding this project, and that is Lyro Hill. The chair will move that the committee approve the invoice for payment from Lyro Hill for September and October 2024 cost estimating services in the amount of $10,507.50, $10,507.50, and that's under the miscellaneous budget. So the chair is so moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Erwin?
Aye.
Gerhart?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Is there any other discussion regarding the library phase one project before we move on to the next agenda item?
Nope.
Okay, very good. Thank you, user reps. Appreciate it, and we'll see you down the road. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Our final major topic or project discussion this evening is for Pollard School renovation. My apologies to the user reps for the length of time it's taken to get us to this point, but we've had some very weighty discussions this evening. Thank you very much for your patience and understanding. With that, I will turn the gavel or the microphone over to Hank.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone attending. I did send out an email memo describing where we are in the process, and I can pull that up on my screen if that's helpful. Let's see, one step back. As you know, we were invited into feasibility at the end of October at the MSBA board meeting on the 30th of October. And the next step is to form the team. We were waiting to get further information from the MSBA to determine how we do that. And they have rejiggered some of their application forms to accommodate an employee OPM. So within all projects, as we know, the town needs to have an owner's project manager. Many other towns across the Commonwealth hire a separate firm to be the OPM for these major type of projects. Town of Needham has had the building design and construction department operating as the employee OPM on projects for the last couple decades. what was new this time around compared to the Sunita Williams project is that they wanted in our application for us to show all of the consultants that would be supporting our team being Ken, myself, and Catherine. And we cannot use the current on-call project management contract with Lyro Hill because this is a much larger project and it was not anticipated within that scope. So we have issued, and I sent you a copy of the RFQ, request for qualifications, so you could understand what we were looking for. In essence, it's very similar to what we were looking for our on-call PM consulting, which would be services for cost estimating at key stages, and then also a series of other skill sets that range from assisting us in the pre-qualification of filed subbidders, pre-qualification of GCs, and or construction manager at risk, doing quality assessment, QA/QC on the drawings, potentially some scheduling, detailed scheduling as we get into the project. So a variety of skills that would be supplementing our services.
Cost estimating too?
Cost estimating, yes, being a key one that because we do not have that in-house.
Right.
So all of those skill sets, plus firms that might have experience with managing net zero projects. And the MSBA has funded, I would say, at least half a dozen, if not a dozen, schools that are now either net zero or net zero ready. So there are models that we can follow, and we can get into those details at a future time. What I'm recommending is that this committee set a subcommittee to assist us in the selection, shortlisting, and interviewing of these firms. Alternatively, we can we have solicited the RFQ. We're anticipating that the responses would come back on the 19th. Unfortunately, over the holidays or over that first week, I would like to have this subcommittee review and shortlist 3 firms for interviews, and with the intent of interviewing 3 finalist firms on the 3rd, so we could come back with a recommendation to this PBBC/school building committee on the 6th. We can, if we miss that sequence, then we would miss the opportunity to go before the MSBA OPM review panel, which occurs in February 10th, and they only meet once a month. So if we extend this schedule, then we would be looking to go before the MSBA OPM review panel in early March. Now, in the bigger picture of things, with the delays that we had, not being able to enter into the eligibility phase until April of this year, and then this most recent delay, it's looking more and more likely that we will not hit the November 2026 override vote potential. And that's in part because all materials have to be fully approved, not only by the school building committee, but also by the MSBA by August, so that or by July, so that the language for the override vote can be submitted to the Secretary of State in August for the November election. And with all of those lead times and the delays that we've had to date, and not wanting to compress the design schedule, we may not be able to hit that original target. But I'm trying to do that by hitting this February OPM review panel meeting. I don't know if that is.
So you're looking for 3 people, Hank?
Yes, it would be Ken and myself, plus potentially 3 others. It's good to have an uneven number. And Anne, you said you might be.
I'm happy to serve if you
Help.
would like me to.
Thank you, Ann.
I would as well.
Thank you, George.
I will too.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you very much.
Are you gonna do it? Are they sending in their books like they did last time, or are you getting hard copies, or are they all online?
We will have both. So as soon as we get it, I would distribute the hard copy and upload the digital version for you to download, or I could give you each a thumb drive, either way.
With your rating sheet?
With the rating sheet, yeah. And our rating sheet, I can share with you. It'll be our typical rating sheet, formatted for the key components that were indicated in the RFQ.
And can you share the RFQ just to remind us what you asked for?
Yes, I think I sent that.
It's in the packet, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That is wonderful.
I have a quick question. You had a meeting with potential candidates for this. Can you just list a few of them?
Yes, we had a briefing session at Pollard, and Tamitha was very helpful, giving the tour. The companies that responded, there were a couple people from Lyro Hill, Left Field. Catherine, you'll have to help me. I don't know if you have your list.
I don't have the list with me, but there are about 21 companies that have taken out the have acknowledged taking out the drawings.
Any that we've worked with before?
Yes, Lyro Hill is the company that we are currently working with, and all of the companies. And when we selected them for on-call, I believe that we interviewed 2 of the other firms at that time that have also submitted. Let me go back and see if I can find your email.
It's not critical.
I will.
I can send out that list tomorrow also.
Yes, that'd be great. I'll share with everyone the addendum, which does have the sign-in sheet, which has both the company names and the individual names of all those who attended the walkthrough.
You actually expect all 21 of those folks to submit?
No.
Okay. I was gonna say,
No.
I hope not.
That would be a shock.
No, I'd say that in many cases there were 2 members from each of the firms. Some of the people that came through the walkthrough, I believe, were architects who are interested in
Prepping for future.
Yes, understanding the issues. and probably won't respond for as OPMs. Whereas there are also some architectural firms also have a division now that function
Yeah,
as
Stantec.
OPMs. Yeah.
They were one of the 3 we did last time.
Yeah, and I think they will be Stantec. Yes, they were present during the walkthrough.
I was trying to remember the OPM we had for Sunita Williams.
Daedalus,
right?
Yeah, Daedalus, but
They're gone
I
now.
think, yeah,
They got bought.
They got bought out.
WSP.
CHA or something like that.
WSP, I thought.
Oh, WSP.
Oh no, CHA. I think you're right.
I think it might be CHA.
Yep.
I
Cliff
don't
Harbor.
know if Richard Marks is still. I think he's
I
retired.
think he retired. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, we will share those with you tomorrow, and the sign-in sheet, and I will also share with you the addendum. We were debating today. They were asking, is there a limit on the page length of the application? And Ken and I were saying, well, 30 double-sided pages may be more than enough for you to respond. So I think we will limit it to that. MSBA has further limitations, but in our application, I would be the project director and Ken would be listed as the project representative. And we'll also feature Catherine as our administrative specialist. But we will need to list their cost estimator and key people from their team as well, once we make that final selection. Okay.
I do think in general, we ought to continue to try to charge ahead and get the best schedule we can. See if we can still get on the list this year. I mean, for what we got proposed.
For 2026.
Yeah.
November 2026. Yes.
As hard as that might be, I think we should still strive for that and not give in too soon.
Understood. I just wanted to send up a warning flag.
Yeah.
Because at each step along the way, we have to make a submittal, typically at least 30 days in advance of the respective review. Then we get their comments, then we have to go through the review process with them and respond. And so each step takes longer than just coming back to this committee.
Right. Understand.
And we really won't be able to determine that schedule until the designer is selected. And when the there's another designer review panel with the MSBA. And once we publish and send out those requests for services, then we have to take all of those and send them back to the MSBA. They do the shortlisting with their 13 members in R3. And then there are interviews on the second meeting, but at least that committee holds 2 meetings each month. So
I will say that I think there's some tilting toward the desire of the community as well. They do pay attention to who we've selected, not that they will guarantee that's what you're going to get, but they pay a lot of attention to that, especially for someone like Needham who has a lot of experience.
Yes, and they certainly listen to the town when we went through the same process with the Sunita Williams School.
Absolutely. So anyway, good. Let's charge ahead.
Will do.
Hank, anything else on this topic before we move on?
That is it. Thank
Okay,
you.
very good. Well, if there's no other business regarding the Pollard School project, we will move on to the next agenda item and thank our user reps for attending tonight. And again, thank you for your patience in the delayed convening of this portion of the meeting. But and have a happy holiday, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, next agenda item is the miscellaneous project invoices, and which we have one that has popped up, and that is the theater sound and light improvements. That's Q-Shot. So the chair will move that the committee approve the invoice for payment from Q-Shot for November 2024 services in the amount of $15,000 even. That's out of the designer budget. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. Hank or Ken, any comments on the this particular invoice before we put it to a vote?
We're progressing with the Newman theater system upgrades, and I think at the next meeting we'll provide a design update, but we are within budget, and it's a lot of technical information. I'll gladly share with you, but I don't understand half of it myself.
Well, thank you. Okay, so the chair's read the motion's been seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Erwin?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Okay. Proceeding on to other business, not fully really not really identified until after the agenda had been published. I wanted to note that there's been a development on the Climate Action Committee, and I would have to ask Erwin or Lynn or both to comment on those developments.
I could start and Lynn could pick up where I left off. There was a request for PBBC to contribute a member to a working group on net zero for buildings to help the Climate Action Committee. And Lynn has already participated in such an undertaking previously, and I thought she'd be great for that role, and she graciously agreed. And Lynn, you want to add anything? But thank you for
That pretty much
volunteering to do
covers
that.
it. I'm gonna jump back in. It's the same group that Barry and I and others sat on when they did the initial run through, sort of developing guidelines and thoughts. We've certainly learned a lot more in the last 2 years since we did that conversation, so hopefully we can be of some service.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Lynn, for stepping up. Appreciate it very much. Hank.
I will share with both of you, and I have shared already with Gabby, a presentation that the MSBA did on demystifying net zero, which I found very helpful. It was multiple presentations. I think it was a full morning of work. I don't know if, Lynn, you've seen that one before.
I think you shared it when you
Did
went.
I?
Yeah, I think I have a
Okay.
copy of it, but feel free to send it again.
Yeah, because, and also, I think I have the presentation. There was a walkthrough of a recently constructed school, the Pine Hill School down in Westwood. And that was designed by Doran Whittier. And the MSBA did a full show on geothermal and how that building achieved, well, it's net zero ready. They don't have all of their solar panels in place, but they're also looking at putting solar panels over in canopies over the parking lot. So there's a formula that MSBA has been developing, and they are fully supportive, in fact, encouraging districts to go toward net zero on all these new projects. They will include that as part of their calculation for funding of the project. But we have to declare that intent early on, so right now, and that has been incorporated into the RFQ for the project manager assistance, and I'm trying to find examples of requests for services from some of the other towns. Gabby's helping me on this for when they hired the designers, because we want that team to be strong in that area as well.
Thank you, Hank. The only other item I had on the under this agenda item is I just wanted to highlight or make the committee aware that the second January meeting of the committee will not be on the 20th. That is a holiday. It'll be on the Monday, the 27th. Catherine and I discussed that, and that seemed to be the best option or better option. Another option would have been a Tuesday, but I know that's a tough night for some people. So it'll be Monday the 27th. That will still give us 2 weeks before the next session in February. So I just want to make people aware of that.
Could you
Anything else?
send out the full, could you just send out, Catherine, the next year's meetings? The current agenda has like the next month or so, but
I believe I attached it to the email that I sent with the last agenda for the December agenda. The schedule for 2025 is attached.
Okay, so last week's
Yes.
email?
Yes.
Okay,
And the one I
thanks.
sent out today with the voting items, I think I attached it to that too.
You
Oh, I'll
did.
go check. Thank you. All right, no problem. Thanks.
So you should have it, but if you don't, let me know and I'll send it out again.
So Catherine, the next meeting will be on Monday, January 6th, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. All right, very good. Well, are there any other comments before we adjourn?
I did have one additional
George.
comment that I forgot to mention earlier.
Go ahead,
And
George.
that's that Hank certainly deserved and got very nice accolades at the open house for Emery Grover. But our friend Ken wasn't there.
Yes.
And so he wasn't available to get his accolades. And I wanted to mention that I thought there was a lot of very fine work done by Ken during this whole process. And he wasn't there to hear everyone applauding for him. He was applauded for, but he wasn't there to
In
accept it
absentia,
all.
as they say.
So I assume he's still on. Are you still with us, Ken?
I am. Thank you, George.
Anyway,
Yes.
accept the applause, even though we're not going to applaud for you, but a great job, and took a lot of effort with all the details that you're on top of. So thought you'd appreciate comments that they made about you, and I'm just transferring them. So
Thank you. Appreciate
thanks
that.
again.
Absolutely. On that note, I'm going to wish everyone a very, very happy holiday. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Bob. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. Roll call vote. Stuart?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Erwin?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So we stand adjourned. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Happy
holidays.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Holidays.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.